Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. The Copa America tournament in Brazil in full swing at the moment at 7 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time, 6 in Jamaica on this Friday. The tournament's two most successful teams, two teams, Argentina and Uruguay, will meet at the Manny Garrincha Stadium. Currently at the Arena Pantanal, Chile and Bolivia are doing battle in the third match of round two, and at halftime Chile are leading by 1-0. Now on Thursday, hosts Brazil beat Peru by 4-0 at the Garrincha Stadium to log their second win from as many games, while at the Pedro Ludovico Olympic Stadium, Colombia and Venezuela played out a 0-0 draw. Disappointment for the Colombians there. Here's Ricardo Chambers with that recap.
In a repeat of the 2019 final, Brazil once again spanked Peru, this time by 4-0 to maintain their perfect start to their Group B campaign. Chicha made 6 changes to the side that beat Venezuela in their opener, and it took just 12 minutes for the home side to go in front. Fullback Alexandro finishing off a clever pass from Gabriel Jesus. Brazil had to wait until the 68th minute for their second. Neymar showing off his quality.
Way now, Neymar's got his goal. It's wonderfully taken.
The goal was Neymar's 5th in as many games for Brazil and moved him within 9 of tying Pele's Brazilian all-time goal-scoring record. The build-up to the third goal had vintage Brazil all over it.
Asked to play as well on the back of a week of World Cup qualification. We've certainly answered some of those questions in the opening 2 games. Here's Neymar again breaking forward, again Richarlison in space, again Richarlison crosses, and this time the ball is turned home. Everton Ribeiro makes it 3.
Richarlison then added further gloss to the scoreline with a 4th in time added.
It's going to be 4 now, it's a block on the line, but no, it's turned in. Richarlison gets his goal at the second time of asking, and it is a little harsh on Peru. They find themselves 4-0 down.
Goal and an assist for Richarlison, 3 points for Brazil, who next face Colombia on June 23. Talking about Colombia, they took on Venezuela. The 2001 champions had their chances. They took 23 shots to Venezuela's 2, but none earned them the desired result, the match ending goalless. The Colombians now second in Group B on 4 points, 2 behind leaders Brazil. Venezuela have what could turn out to be a vital point. Ecuador and Peru yet to get off the mark.
Okay, so joining us to recap the action so far in round 2, former Trinidad and Tobago international Brent Sancho. Brent, welcome to our Copa America segment here. The Brazilians fluent with another victory. Took some time to get fully in gear because it was 1-0 for a pretty long time. But 6 changes going into the match, telling you about the depth of their squad and so on. They're continuing to look like or justify the favoritism placed in them.
I'm not sure if they've come out of second gear yet in this tournament. They've seemed very comfortable in their skin, and their performances so far have been indicative. Of course, Peru had their spells and their moments within the encounter. But one thing for sure, as you rightfully said, Lance, the depth of the Brazilian team, the quality that we see in every single department. I don't think you can find a better goalkeeping department in world football. I don't think you can find as well, arguably, a better midfield department. And the attacking, well, I think the attacking side needs a little bit of work. But I think overall, from what we've seen from Brazil, is certainly a team that seems to be on a march towards crowning themselves as the 2021 champions. And I'm not sure if there's any team in the competition can even walk on the pitch with them right now.
Yeah, we've looked at Brazil's history of football, and there are times that I would think complacency gets the better of them. Chiche, though, appears to be a coach that tries to drill into his players that they've got to get these results. You've just outlined or articulated that they clearly look to be the best team in the tournament. Don't suspect that they could suffer from some complacency here, do you?
Well, you don't have to go far. Of course, France 98 is that epitome of complacency. But that being said, there's a lot of conversation. We covered here at SportsMax the Copa in 2019, and we had this similar sort of conversation. A lot of the traditionalists of Brazilian football still were not happy with the way the Brazilian team played because they expect the flicks and the tricks and everything that comes with Brazilian football and the flair, of course. But as stated back in 2019, and I think even better now in 2021, the pragmatic approach, the professional approach, the thoughtful approach, solid defensively, build and comfortable to build from a counter-attacking perspective is what the modern day Brazil or the Brazil of 2021, 2019 looks like. And as I mentioned, the 2019 team, Lance, I think for what I've seen from this Brazil team in particular is an upgrade from what we saw in 2019. And you have to give Tite some credit because he's not only done well in 2019, he's improved that. And to answer your question, it's very hard to see complacency because he's improved on what we saw in 2019. And in 2019, they won.
Yeah. Quick comment on Neymar. Within 9 goals of Pelé now as all-time leading scorer for the Brazilians. I remember one of those 1970 stars saying a couple of years ago that Neymar couldn't even get close to making the 1970 team. your thoughts on Neymar's current contribution to the Brazil efforts in Copa America?
Listen, what Neymar brings to a football team, I don't care what era in football you're talking about, he will be in my starting team simply because he is a winner. He wins games. The second goal in particular, right after the penalty call was nullified, Neymar decided to pick the ball up and put the ball in the back of the net. And it is his own way where he just turned it on. He was anonymous for most part of the game. But when he turns it on, he scores goals. And guess what? Goals win matches. And to me, he is easily one of the greatest Brazilian footballers of all time. And a lot of people don't like him because of the way he approaches games. But look at the man's stats, look at what he's done, and look what he can do in football. And I think there's not much argument to that fact.
Yeah, a lot of Man United fans, several of them right here at SportsMax, aren't too impressed with Fred. We saw a meme coming out. I don't know if our producers have that in the past couple of days with Neymar cooling out, apparently about to take a corner or something and deciding to wait because the only person in the box was Fred. And the suggestion was that, Fred is below standard. There it is. When you have the chance to cross the ball, but you only see Fred in the box. But he had a decent game, didn't he, last night? Your thoughts, first of all, on that meme and the game that Fred currently offers for the Brazilians.
I think all of us with SportsMax could don a yellow jersey and become brilliant all of a sudden, and that's what's happened to Fred. I mean, the Fred from Manchester United, as we call in Trinidad and Tobago, he's a woodcutter. He's one of those guys that just serves you a drink. But the Fred for Brazil is a connoisseur, a cook, and of course, a restaurant owner. He's a different person. He's showing a bit of skill, a bit of guide. He brings good balance to the Brazilian team, and he fits right in. When I see the lineup and I see the anthems being played, and you see Fred in the picture, as a Brazilian fan, you do have a bit of fear. But what I've seen from him so far is nothing like what we've seen in some of the games from Manchester United, where he's been a car crash waiting to happen. He's a lot different from that, and a credit to the man, he's fit right into the Brazilian fabric.
Yeah, and quickly before we wrap, Brent, the 0-0 draw that the Colombians were held to, certainly a disappointing result from them, but the Venezuelans did show us in the Brazil game that they can be tenacious in defense. Obviously, they were outclassed by the Brazilians, but for long periods, they were holding their own. Was that a shocker for you?
It was a shocker. They've been, of course, ravaged by the COVID and, of course, losing players at Venezuela team. But I think when you look at Colombia, and the one man in particular that's missing, that's James Rodriguez. And to me, I've said this many, many times, James Rodriguez out of a Colombian team makes Colombia a very, very average team. And we saw that there. So we have seen it so far in the tournament. So I'm not particularly surprised by the result. However, if I'm a Colombian player right now sitting at the hotel, I would be disappointed in terms of what transpired and not being able to overturn the Venezuelan team.
Always great talking to you on the SportsMax Zone, Brent. We'll be in touch.
All right, lads, have a good one.
Yeah, Copa America, of course, continues on SportsMax and SportsMax 2. George, Brazilians continuing to look very, very fluent here. And although they were held to just a 1-0 lead to half-time and didn't get the second goal until the 68th minute from Neymar, it was pretty much a walk in the park, wasn't it?
Yeah, there were segments of that game where it looked as if they were walking it to follow on the walking theme that you just mentioned. And when I've seen all of the teams except Uruguay in this tournament so far, already Brazil look a class apart. And as Brent said at the top, you don't get the impression that they've engaged another gear beyond first just yet. And if anybody can push them to do that, it will be spectacular for us watching. But perhaps they don't even need to get there to win this tournament.
Yeah, I asked Brent just now about Fred, George. I know you're not one of Fred's biggest fans, but he did quite well last night, didn't he?
Fred is, what should I say? There are times when Fred is rubbish, and there are times when Fred is flotsam. So rubbish is of course, land-based, the rubbish in your garbage dispenser. Flotsam is bits and pieces of refuse that you find in the sea. It's not so bad if you're swimming and it comes up, you just move it and you continue, but you wouldn't engage garbage any at all, rubbish any at all. So, and I'm being kind, yeah? So the Fred for Brazil is flotsam. The Manchester United Fred, oh my God.
Yeah. I refuse, George, to join you on the refuse comment that you just labeled for Fred.
I know you'd refuse. I know you'd refuse.
Okay, Copa America is on SportsMax and SportsMax 2, of course, and you can't afford to miss the action as it continues in over the weekend. So that's our football segment on Copa America. We'll be back. Still a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone, including what happened at Royal Ascot today in horse racing and some, as George mentioned, big Frankie Dettori stories.